Hey guys, Swindle here, and today I am back with some more coding. Oops, didn't mean to do that. So we shall be continuing. Sorry that it's been a while. I got busy and kind of forgot. So where we left off, we did variables and scope. Now we are going to move on to, we're going to start off with some loops. I'm going to start off with just a simple for loop, and then we'll go into the while loop. And that's kind of going to be the majority of what we do. If statements will also be in there, but those are a little bit easier to do. We'll loop that in with the while loop because those two kind of go hand in hand, which you'll see in a bit. But of course, what we will need first is our main method, because without it, our script won't run. So now that we have this is what's going to run when we first run the program, of course. Now, the syntax for a for loop is you're going to do for, and then you can choose any variable here. This is kind of where you declare it by doing the int. You can technically do anything that you want, so like you could do it by floats if you wanted, but typically it's done with ints. You can also do it with a already made variable if you wanted to. You could do it with a string. You could do it to where, like, if you do a string, you could do it to where then you keep on adding onto it different ASCII values. You can do something like that. But we're going to do a simple, we're just going to do it very simple. We're going to do an int because it's just easier. So we're going to do int. Then what comes next is this is going to be the condition. So the conditions we're going to see once we get into the if statements, more on what they do, but this is kind of going to be determining if the loop continues or if it ends. So for this, let's just do something simple. Now this could be a fixed value, it can be a value that changes. Like for example, if we did args.length, that's going to be the length of this string array. So whatever the user enters into that array, this will count up to that essentially, but we're just going to do something simple. So we're going to do like 100. And then what comes after that is there needs to be some type of increment or decrement. Decrement, I don't know how you exactly pronounce it. So for example, for this, we're going to do I++. Now we could do minus minus, and then this would subtract from the value. So we go 0, -1, -2, -3, etc., etc. However, if we look here, our I is, as long as I is less than 100, this will run. That means this will become an infinite loop. We do not want that. So in order to make sure that that doesn't happen, we will need to do ++, because we essentially need this condition to eventually be met, or we need a condition elsewhere that will kick us out of the loop. However, if you have a loop where you will be adding break statements to kick yourself out of, it is typically convention to do a while loop. It's not always the best option. That's just kind of the standard if you have too many breaks for it. So finally, you just do your curly braces like any other thing in C#, and then just do a nice console.writeLine. Also, please bear with me. I have not done C# in a little while. I've been doing Python recently, so I might be a little bit slow here, and I didn't do a template to go off of, so I might be a little bit slow. So this is essentially going to count us all the way up. So if we run this, should run. And as you can see, we have values from 0, which is our starting number right here. We started our integer at 0, and we're printing I. And then it's going to count all the way to 99. The reason that it's 99 and not 100 is this is less than. So it stops before the 100. If we did less than or equal to, then actually we should probably close this window before we run it again. Now it prints all the way up to 100. Now if we do, let's say equals, just for kicks, it's not going to run. The reason why is because 0 is not equal to 100. So it won't even run the first time because, well, it can't. It doesn't meet this condition. So essentially the way that this goes, actually we need to do, is it, oh, why am I blanking on what is it hashtag? No. Oh, yeah, that's right. It's // Again, I was doing Python. Python, it's the number sign. So the first thing that it does is it makes the variable, it sets the variable, whatever it needs to do, that comes first. Then we come over here and it'll do the condition second. If the condition is met, so we'll put this back to less than, then it will come down here and it'll run whatever's in your, whatever is in this, what is it called? Whatever in this block of code. It's, the actual term is not coming to me. I apologize for that. And then what happens last is it'll increment, and then the loop doesn't then start back at 1. It will then start back at 2. Because we've already made the variable, we've already set it, that's fine. So it basically goes 1, 2, 3, 4, then it goes 2, 3, 4. And then it just keeps on doing 2, 3, 4 until this condition is not met anymore. And then the loop will end. So that's just how a basic for loop works. We're going to comment this out for the time being. Now we're going to do, if we do a for loop, we can do int I equals, let's do 100. I is greater than or equal to 0. And we will do I minus minus. Now if we do the console.writeLine I, now we will see it's going to print from 100 down to 0. So this is essentially the reverse of our first loop. But now we can make for loops get a little bit more complex. Now I should be commenting these out due to time complexity, but we don't care about that right now. So now, another thing that we can do is if we go in here, let's see, what could we do? Let's do, let's do 10. Oops, or sorry, 0. I is less than or equal to 10. I plus plus. Now, this is called a nested for loop, where we add in this for loop inside of another for loop. So for this, we need 2 variables now. So for this, we're going to choose j. It is typically standard for these to do I and j. However, you do not have to. You could choose something else. Less than or equal to, let's do 10 again. And we'll want to do j++. So now, if we go into here, we can do .writeLine. Let's print out a star. And then we'll come down here, console.writeLine. Oops. And we want to do a \n. So now, if we run this, if you look here, we have yeah, okay, that is right. So if we look here, we have each time it's going to be printing out 10 stars with the space. This is our spacer right here. It's going to print out the 10 stars. It's going to add the space. It's going to do 10 again, add the space, and it's going to do that 10 times. So This is essentially our first counter, and this counts however many times this counts, essentially. So we can do, oh, let's see. Do that time, or no, not times. So there's a lot of stuff you can do with this. We're gonna leave this here for now. So eventually you can build things like pyramids with the stars. You could do a lot of stuff with the nested for loops. And it doesn't even have to be 2. You could do 3, 4, as many as you need. But next, we are going to discuss the while loop. And with it, we will discuss how if statements work. So for this, we're going to do while true. Now, a while true will infinitely run. The only way to kick it out is we will need to type in break. This is the only way to break out of a while loop. So let's add a nice little counter variable. Let's do count equals 0. All right. Now, every time that this runs, we will increment count by 1. So count will keep on going up, and this will happen, well, if we remove this break statement, this will now happen infinitely. So if we click play, oh wait, sorry, we can't actually see anything. We need to print it. That is my bad. So now if we run this, this will go on for eternity because it never kicks out of this loop. So what we need to do is, for the purposes of this, we need the break statement. But now, here's the issue with this. This will now happen whenever the code runs once. We need a way to basically tell it when to stop. We need this conditional that's up here, but the while loop isn't, I mean, it doesn't need, well, you can put a condition up here. Like, I can say while 5 does not equal 0. 5 will never equal 0. This is still an infinite loop. We could do while 5 does not equal 5. Like, you can add conditions up here. However, the while loop is made to more so be unpredictable. So, a lot of times you will see an if statement being used. So an if statement is essentially the same as our conditions that we've done before. Let's do equals 10. It's the same as the conditional up here. So if we now move our break statement into here and we print now, if we look, it runs 10 times. It essentially does the same thing as our for loop, but we can make it to where it's a little bit less predictable. So we can add different conditions that can end it, because if we were going, let's say we were controlling a string, right? If we have it to where if count reaches 10, it ends. We could also have, if, let's make 2 strings. String 1 equals, we'll make it hello. And we have int string 2 equals by, oops, that's not how that works. It's strings. So we can add in here if string 1 dot equals string 2, then it would break. So we can add more than one conditional. We can add more than one way that this can break. String 2 is not null here. No, of course string, oh, that's why. Remove one of my parentheses. So we can have multiple different conditions. We would not be able to do that up here. This can only take one condition for each of the loops. But down here, due to convention, we are able to do these where we can add in multiple things that will make it break. Now, for this one will never get used. However, we could change and add in something like, let's say, we could do something such as, we'll make it simple. This isn't like the most optimal thing, but oh well. So if we do this, then we can do string2 equals hello. Now it will break at this. So if we run this, it's going to run 6 times, not 5, because if we look, this is where it's changing. So we're still going to be running because there's no break after this. We come up here, this changed from 5 to 6. We print out the 6, then this runs and it breaks. So where you put your if statements is very important because that dictates when it's going to be used. Now we can do another thing. We can do something that's called an if. Nope, not if else. Else if. Now this, if the first if doesn't run, like if the condition is not met, then it will come down to this. So let's say if string1 dot equals, we can just put in a random thing. Then we would just do count equals 10. Actually, count would equal 9 if we wanted to make it use this break statement up here. So now this will run if this one doesn't, and it equals good day. So if we change string1 to good day, and we run this, it immediately jumps up to 10 because this was set to good day. String1 was not equal to string2, so this if statement doesn't run. But string1 was equal to good day, so count jumps up to 9. Now it becomes 10. Now it breaks. One final thing with the if statements is we can make an else. Now the else will run if the if statement and any else ifs below it do not run. This is your one catch-all. This needs to be handled with care because no matter what, it will make it to this. Or not no matter what, it'll make it to this. If it makes it to this, it will run always. So if we don't add anything else, oops, that's right, because we changed this. So let's change this to day, because why not? So now if we run this, we get a 1, and then it stops. Because it counts plus plus, it prints, then it comes down here. We have count does not equal 10, so this doesn't run. String1 does not equal string2, so this doesn't run. String1 does not equal good day, so this doesn't run. But this else then catches it all, and now the else runs. So it is always in this format. The else will only work for an if, like basically the last set of ifs. So this is all one set of if statements. This is if we added an else up here, then if this if statement doesn't run, then this else will catch it. So it's all a matter of where you put them, and you need to have an if in order to have an else if or an else. They always are a set package, and if you want them to follow a general flow, it has to be in this order. You can add more else ifs, so there's no limit on else ifs in a if statement block, but there is a limit of number of ifs and elses. You can only have one if and one else for it. So that's kind of the basics to those. Let's see. I mean, that's about it. I think you guys should be able to handle... I do have a little challenge that I found on Instagram that I kind of liked. I think you should be able to do it with the information that is here. If not, I will also be doing a video to explain how to solve it. But here is the challenge. It is to write a program that will print this pattern. You now know how to use the for loops and the if statements. You can also use a while loop if you so desire. That should be all that is needed to complete this challenge. So I highly recommend looking at patterns. Why does it do it that way? So if you look here, it starts off as at 1, and then it goes, we have 1, and then it's 2 across from 3, 4, 5, 6. So, and then it goes 10, 9, 8, 7, 11, 12, 13, 15, 14, and then 16. So, what I want for this is I want it to be dynamic. So that means instead of, if we look here, this is a 4x4, it should be able to handle anything, 5x5, 6x6, anything like that. So what I want you guys to look at is the pattern. There is a very clear pattern. For example, here, between these two, it is subtracting 1. Here, adding, subtracting, subtracting, subtracting. So it's a very clear and distinct pattern. You can make that pattern become accomplished in multiple different ways. So, for example, you could do it to where you add 1 and 3, that's going to get you your 4. 5 and 4, that's how you get your 9 down here. So you can do some weird, funky math to go around that way. You could figure out something that's going to alternate between adding and subtracting. You can do it however you want, but it needs to be in this order, and it needs to be able to be changed. I don't want you to basically just go in and print this. I want it to actually run through some loops. So we'll see what you guys come up with. You guys will have some time knowing me and recording videos. So let me know if you guys have any questions on it in the comments. I'll be happy to answer, and we'll do an in-depth video on how to solve this, because it is tricky. I kind of want to see where people are at for figuring these out, because, you know, we gotta get you guys thinking a little bit. And yeah, that's all that I got. So I hope you guys did enjoy this video, and if you did, then please do subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.